In the previous lesson, we have created this checkout page so that the user can fill this form and place an order. In this lesson, what we will do is when someone places an order, then they will be redirected to the Stripe payment gateway, and once the payment is successful or cancelled, depending on that, they will be redirected to a new page. So let's get back to the editor and figure out how we will do that. So let's start with the urls.py file, and we will add a new path here. So here we have added a new path, checkout, that will trigger the method called checkout in our views file. Now let's save this and open our views file. And here at the bottom, we will add a new method called checkout. This checkout method will handle two types of requests, a post request and a get request. So basically, when it's a get request, we will display a page which will contain the Stripe JavaScript part, and basically it will contain a button which the user can click on and they will be redirected to the Stripe checkout page. Now if the request method is post, then in that case what we will do is we will create a Stripe session, update some order data, empty the cart, and finally we will redirect the user depending on whether they have paid for the order or they have cancelled it. So now let's start with the condition block. So the first thing inside the if block is we are fetching the order for the current user. Also, we have mentioned that the status should be created. And after that, we are fetching the user cart. Now inside the try block, we will create a Stripe session. So here, in order to create a Stripe session, we are executing the method stripe.checkout.session.create. And here we can pass few information. One of this is the domain URL. When you are working on localhost, you can use this as your domain URL. Inside the create method, the first one is success URL and the second one is cancel URL. So these two will help us to redirect the user depending on whether they have paid successfully or canceled the order. Depending on that thing, we can redirect the user either in success URL or in cancel URL. If the URL is success, then in that case, we are also passing session ID as query parameter. We will use this session ID in the next lesson. Now for the payment method types, we are using card only, and mode is equals to payment. And finally, the last one is line items. In the line item section, we need to pass the number of items or the product details that the user is currently going to purchase. So here get order items is going to be another method which we are calling from here, and this will return something that will be assigned to this variable. Now after this, we need to update the details of this specific order. Here in the order model, we have two fields, session ID and payment ID, and that two values will be this session. When we are creating a session, Stripe returns us a set of data or a set of object, and within that object we are fetching the ID and payment intent, and finally we are saving the order into the database. And now we need to remove the cart items. So here the first thing we are doing is setting the cart value to 0, cart total value, and in order to delete all the cart items associated with a single cart, we are using cart.cartitem.all delete. So in that case, we can delete a model containing a foreign key by using its related model. Here the related model is cart, and cart item model contains a foreign key that is related to cart. So in that case, we are just fetching the cart only, and we have a lot of cart items associated with that cart, and we are executing the all method to get all the cart items, and finally we are executing the delete method to delete all the cart items associated with this cart, and finally we are saving the changes into the database. Now once this is done, we need to send a JSON response. So here, if we are able to successfully create a Stripe session and do all the transaction here, then we will be able to send a JSON response in form of a dictionary with the following values. And if there is any exception, then in that case, we are sending the error message as JSON response. Now for the GET request, we will simply render a template. Now let's save this and create a new template here called checkout.html. I have added a pre-built code inside the checkout.html file. There are a few things that I have got from the Stripe documentation. If you visit stripe.com/docs and from there click on Get Started, accept a payment, and here at the right hand side you can see a pre-built checkout page. So basically we are using the code from these 4 files. So here you can see they have a checkout button and with the product details. When I click on checkout, it's opening a new Stripe page where we can add the email, card details, name on the card, and finally the country. And if the user click on pay after that, they will be redirected to the successful page after the payment success. And if they try to get back, then in that case it will be cancelled. Here you can see checkout session cancelled. So this is how Stripe works. Now let's get back to the editor. So here inside the body we have a button called checkout, and we have 2 scripts, one for Stripe, another one for Polyfill, and finally our custom script. And inside that script, here we have initialized Stripe by passing our test key, and after that we are executing the DOM content loaded method. That means as soon as the document object model of JavaScript loaded, this method will be triggered. And what it is doing, it's fetching the /checkout path. Here in our case it will be /ecom/checkout, and it's sending a post request, and finally we are getting some response. We are converting that response into JSON. After that, here you can see we are executing stripe.redirect to checkout, and we have passed the session ID. This session ID is the session ID which we are returning as a JSON response from our views. So we can access it like session.session ID because we have used the name session here. And finally, here we are displaying some error message and handling errors. Now save this file, and we should be able to check out our checkout and order methods now. However, we have missed one thing, and that is the get order items method. We need to define this method here. This method will basically return a list of items. So create an empty list first. And now we will loop through all the order items. So basically inside the for loop, what we are doing is we are appending some data into the items list. This data contains price information like currency, unit amount, product data like the name of the product or title, along with the quantity. We are appending into the items list. So finally, suppose we have one or more items into the order item, then in that case, we can fetch all these items and return it here in line items. Now let's save this. Before we check it in our browser, you need to make sure that you have installed Stripe. In order to do that, say pip install Stripe. Execute this command and it should install Stripe. And now let's start the server again by using the command run server. Right now we are logged in from this account, and if we visit cart, here you can see we have added a single item with quantity 2, and here you can see the price. Now let's place the order, and we need to fill this form. Once we submit the form, it's showing that module datetime has no attribute now. Okay, so there is one mistake. So here we need to import few things, and there is one thing that we need to fix. We need to import datetime from datetime. Along with this, we also need to import Stripe here. Once we import Stripe, we need to set the API key. You can get the test keys from your dashboard. Once you log in into your Stripe dashboard, here you can see get your test API keys. There are two types of keys, publishable key PK and secret key SK. So these two keys you will need during the development process. So here you can click on this and it will be automatically copied. Now let's get back to the editor and paste these keys over there. We need to place our SK, that is secret key, here, and inside the checkout.html page we need to change this key into the key, publishable key we got in our dashboard. Now save this and let's get back to the browser and let's resubmit the form. And here you can see we are redirected to this checkout page. However, there is some issue, and that is unexpected token in JSON at position 1. This error is occurring because we have not imported JSON response. So let's get back to the editor and fix this thing. Here you can see JSON response is not imported. Also the order model. So here we need to import order and also JSON response from Django.htdp. There is one last thing that we need to do, and that is we need to stop the CSRF protection for the checkout method. In order to do that, we need to import the CSRF exempt decorator. And now let's go to the bottom, and here at the top of this we will use CSRF exempt. There are few things that we need to change right now. The first thing is here instead of using get we are using filter with the same conditions. User equals to currently logged in user and status will be created, and after that we are using order by created at and getting the first object only. This is because the user may create more than one orders with the status created, because unless they are paying for the order status will remain same. So for this reason, we are fetching the latest order created by the user, and after that, the next thing that we are going to change is we need to add ecom at the beginning, and finally here at the bottom we have missed one thing, and that is we need to return the items so that they can be assigned here in line items. Now save this and let's open our browser. Right now we are logged in from this account, and if I visit cart, you can see there is nothing. So let's add something in our cart right now. Here we have added Sony TV table, and now let's place order. Now if I click on place order, I'm redirected to this checkout page, and finally this Stripe landing page is opening. Here you can see at the right hand side there is a form to fill up the email, payment information, name on the card, and finally the country. And at the left hand side here you can see it's right now running in test mode. The name of the company, the product description, quantity, and all the other information are right here. There was one more thing that we need to do. Here you can see we need to place the company name. Without the company or brand name, Stripe will not let us use the Stripe API. So make sure you fill this properly. Now let's try to fill this with some demo data. Once the payment is successful, we are being redirected to /ecom/payment/success, and here is the session ID, which is being passed as a query parameter. And in the next lesson, we will handle this thing to display whether the payment is successful or cancelled. And along with that, we will also talk about how to send mails using Django.